Rita, we got John, and we got Dan. I'm just trying to get my list together when I say my speech. So are we ready, Lisa? That's all. Hello?
Yep, you're all set.
All righty, thank you, thank you. And thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our Public Safety General Government meeting. Today is March the 24th in 2021. And before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. The moderator for tonight is City Clerk.
Is Tony frozen or is it me?
I think it's Tony.
There he is. You're muted, Tony.
What's going on with it? Keeps on just coming up saying leave and then join. So do I do that? It says join a new meeting. You will have to.
I had that happen too.
Just cancel.
Well, you're here now. Yeah, I would try that.
Nope, it won't let me do it. Won't let me see you guys' faces. Oh, God. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Alrighty, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And I'm sorry. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcripts will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we not have public speaking tonight, you can sign up to speak at our monthly council meetings. Please email Lisa Tenti to sign up by noon the day of the meeting, or you can submit written comments for the record by the same deadline. The email address is emtinti, that's EMTINTI at kingston-ny.gov. That again is EMTINTI at kingston-ny.gov. You can also drop comments off at the drop box located outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. City Clerk Lisa Tenti is the moderator for today's meeting. She has a right to block and pause the meeting to reject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance and chair, myself, Tony Davis, and committee members, and Michelle Hirsch, Jeffrey Ventura Morel, Doug Coop, Rennie Scott Childress, and we also have City Clerk Lisa Tenti, and here also present and non-committee members by council and common council members Rita Worthington, and then we have city engineer John Schulteis and City Corp Counsel Dan Garstein. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the common council, I wish you and your family good health. I now call this meeting to order at 6:36. So, welcome everyone. I believe there's only two things on the agenda unless something was added at the last second between here and coming home. And so, and we're going to skip the chief right now, new business, because he's still in the meeting. And Lisa, if you can let me know when he does come, and since I can't see everybody on the screen. Old business, we have stop intersections. So we have our city engineer, John Schulteis, here to present that information. And John?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. So per the request, I forget exactly how it came about, but we discovered a number of locations around the city. Most of these are small streets with low traffic volume. But we found that there's a list of almost 50 locations that have never had stop or yield.
Can you guys still hear me?
Legislated. And so the purpose of this, everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The purpose of this, Mr. Chairman, is to amend the city code to allow the installation of stop signs at these locations, which you have the list there, I believe, attached to the agenda. It's I think it's close to 50 locations.
Can I ask a question, Tony? Or he looks frozen again. This is Rennie Scott Childress until Tony comes back. So John, do you have an idea of how much a stop sign costs? So like if we were to put in a stop sign at all 50 of these locations. The other thing is, I know like here at Irving Street, there would only be one stop sign. Is that the case at all of these intersections, or would some of them need multiple signs?
Right. Okay. So to answer the last question first, most of these are a T-type intersection, which is probably why they were never legislated. As a driver, it's somewhat obvious when and where to stop. However, the MUTCD that you often hear me quoting from, Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, doesn't contain any exception for that. So I think to answer the next question, yeah, I've spoken with Ed Norman, Superintendent of DPW, about this and provided him with a approximate number, and he did indicate it would take some additional it would take some more manpower and signage than he was planning on, but I believe he's got it in his budget and he's able to execute this. Just a round number, I think but it costs between $150 and $200 per sign for material and labor.
So we're talking $10,000 total, a little bit more than $10,000.
It's in that range. Yeah, he gave me an approximate figure. Of course, it varies with a number of hours of labor is not always predictable, but.
Mm-hmm. Right, I get that part. So Tony just called me and said he's having trouble getting back in, and he asked me to run the meeting until he gets back. So I apologize for ducking out just a second there, but that was the call that I took from him. So hopefully he'll be able to get back in fairly soon. Anybody else have any questions, comments for John? Doug Coop?
Yeah, I see all these lists. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I see all this list of 50 signs, and I'm astounded. Not one of them is in Ward 2, particularly the one that I've been trying for 5 years, Ward 2 at Main and Wall Street. I would like to know, I'm not going to say I question your decision, but I'd like to know why this is not on the list. That's a horrible intersection.
Yeah, and that's a separate question. So the list before you tonight was the question before put to me was where are there locations where there is no stop sign coming into the intersection on any leg. So Main at Wall does have a stop sign. It's just I know that some people find it illogical.
Yeah.
I would suggest, if you'd like to, my suggestion on that particular location, there are some signs and they're in use in a few places around the city that say, the traffic from the right does not stop. Cross traffic does not stop, words to that effect. I think that could be useful at that location.
Well, I'm not doubting your decision on this. I would just like to know why. Too many of us who go through that intersection daily, it's ludicrous that there's no stop sign coming down Main Street. And I'd like to know why. You may have good data that says, no, we shouldn't do this, crash data, whatever. But for 5 damn years, I've been trying to get this answered, and I never get an answer. Why won't you put a stop sign at that horrible intersection? You may have an answer. Maybe I'll accept it, but I want to know why. Sorry.
All righty. I just got back in. I see Michelle Hurst's hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say to Alderman Coop, if you want a sign there, put a communication in and ask for it.
I have many times. Why? I'm asking the city engineer, And there may be good reasons for this. I'm not doubting your intelligence on the answer. I just want to know what it is. Why won't you put a stop sign at that intersection along Main Street? What's the reason? Can I be more emphatic than that?
So I don't recall under my tenure, which is about 2.5 years now, seeing a communication.
Oh, nonsense. We've talked about this meeting after meeting.
Yeah, but Doug, what he's trying to say, you can talk meeting after meeting, but there's no communication. Since I've been the chair of public safety, I haven't seen a communication come through my desk yet requesting a stop sign there. That is what Alderwoman Hurst is saying. If you put a request in there, we can still vote on it and talk about it. And even though the city engineer might say no, we can still put something there.
Tony, I give up. Let's move on.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? You could do all the shouting and yelling if you want to, but if you're not going to put a request in, then we can't talk about it anymore.
Right. I give up on this. 5 years later, I give up.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
So John, what kind of time frame? Suppose tonight we vote to go through with this, put stop signs at all 50. I'm guessing that this would take place in a staggered kind of process over, would it be months, years, decades?
Not years. And I don't want to speak for the superintendent of public works, but I would think with his, available staff that it's a matter of weeks to get these done.
Oh, okay. And then there wouldn't be a huge trouble getting the signs themselves?
No, he indicated that he has space in the budget for these materials.
I frozen again?
No, you're there, Tony. We hear you. Michelle Hirsch has a question.
Is this going to require any overtime on the part of DPW? Or will they be able to fit into their regular workday?
That's probably a question better suited for the superintendent of public works. I wouldn't know how he'll direct that to be done.
All right, so.
Oh, Tony's frozen again. Let's see. So the actual request here, where are we?
I have one more question.
Sure.
So John, you don't think that a sign is needed on Spring coming out onto Hudson, the hill? And
well, I could try to. I guess I'd rather not. If it is, it missed my attention on this list, but we can certainly look at it separately.
okay, it's like on the line of Ward 9 and 8.
If it's the way I think it is, Spring Street is a one-way street at that location.
Okay, I thought it, I thought it.
I'm here.
All right, Tony.
Double check.
Alrighty, I'm sorry, but something's wrong with my internet, so I'm on the phone here. I'm not sure if anybody has any more questions.
John's looking one thing up. He and Michelle are discussing the potential for a stop sign on Spring Street.
Alrighty. I have a question when I'm done, when we're done with Michelle in regard to this.
Yes. So to answer the question, Spring at Hudson, Spring Street is one way in the eastbound direction.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Are you done, Michelle?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Tony.
Alrighty, hell there, guys. Again, I apologize. And this is a big list, and, you know, it's got monetary back and money to it. I'm not sure if everybody's taken a look at this. And I know I've received some communication that a few years ago, and and the chief was here. I sent them a late communication in regard to. I guess I was informed that some years ago the chief had concerns about, you know, this with a lot of stop signs in the streets, and I'm not sure exactly what was said or why that reasoning. And my thoughts are here. And again, my other part is, I'm not sure if everybody's able to go and see these streets that are in their ward to see what it would, and if they're, you know, in your opinion, if there's a stop sign. Again, I'm not going against, as Doug says, I'm not going against the city engineer, but you know, if it's a place where there's a stop sign and you don't think that stop signs need to be there. I mean, again, the city engineer is giving us suggestions. Us as a committee doesn't have to, you know, go along with that. We can make our own recommendations. It might not be agree with the city engineer, but we have that ability to make additions or take subtractions away. So again, I can't see you guys' faces, so I'll just for a call, if each person answers, had the committee members or even members that are not on the committee had an opportunity to go and see these streets for themselves, and before we go in and put stop signs in. Because again, some people want stop signs, some people don't. And so I think it would be very educational for us if we were to be, you know, make sure that we've gone and seen these locations in our ward, and that, you know, before we make a motion that to put these stop signs there or not. So, and if you guys can just tell me one at a time if you had, and Michelle, have you been able to?
Actually, I was just going to make we divide this list up.
Everything's broken up today.
You broke up, Michelle. Can you start over?
I was going to make a suggestion in the form of a motion that we divide this list up and then parcel it out to each council member to look into and come back to committee next month.
Yeah, I've looked at the ones in my ward, and I think that in all three cases, it's warranted. I mean, we could debate it more closely. One of them I think might not be absolutely necessary, but I mean, you know, I think if each ward person takes responsibility for their ward, that would be fine. And I don't think it would require a motion. I think it would also be good to get input from the chief, like Tony was suggesting, because I do remember the chief at one point noting that the dilemma with too many stop signs is that people stop paying attention to them.
Correct. And that was my concern.
Yeah, and Tony, I think while you were out, at one point we asked about the overall cost, and the engineer said probably $10,000 to $12,000, but that there is money in the DPW budget to cover some of it at least.
All righty. And Jeffrey?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my internet keeps cutting in and out, so I apologize if I get frozen. But I checked, there's only 3 or 4 on Ward 1. I checked them, and it seems like they are warranted in those 4 locations.
Okay. Doug?
There are none in Ward 2, if I've read this list right.
Ooh. So also then this is
Ward 2. I'm saying there are none. There are none.
All right.
Rita is here.
Rita?
Unfortunately, I have not seen the list. So
okay.
if I could get a copy of the list or tell me where to go get it, I'll take a look at it, and I'll be happy to check to see if any are in my ward.
It's attached to the agenda for tonight.
Yeah, I don't have the agenda.
Right.
Oh.
I'll try to send it to you.
Okay, you'll send it to her, Rita or Rennie?
Yes, sir.
All righty. So then it does seem like maybe these are more, you know, in the committee members that are not present right now. And so I'm open to suggestions. And do we reach out to those committee members or to the council members and make sure they have this list to go through? I mean, I know Alderwoman Hirsch has made a motion to a discussion about dividing it. My only concern is about dividing that, you know, there might be streets that are not in your ward, and then you're making a decision for, you know, somebody else's ward. That's my only concern, that if nobody else is concerned about that.
No, I'm saying is make sure that everybody from each ward has this list before we make a decision.
Correct. I thought you had said to divide it up. I apologize.
Well,
So yes,
you know, so.
yeah, I would be, I mean, I don't know if it takes a motion or if we can just table this and for next month. And in the meantime, and you know, City Clerk, Lisa, make sure that everybody has this list. And then make a comment that if they could please check this list and get back to either Lisa or myself in regard to any comments that they have on any of these intersections in the ward before next month, by next month, and then we can make a decision there. And that I don't believe we need a motion to table it.
That's correct.
All righty. So, and we're all in agreement with that. At least, is that something you could do? Is get this list out to every all the person, and then with a note that they should please check these intersections for the possibility of stop signs, and get back to either you or to myself with their comments.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't minimize my screen while I'm running the meeting. So as soon as the meeting is over, I will send it out.
Okay. So is everybody okay with that and table it into next month?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rita, I just sent the agenda to your city email account.
John, this is not going to make a difference.
I'll take a look at it. Thank you.
John, it's not going to make a difference if we table this for a month or so, right?
No, Mr. Chairman, I believe, you know, these have been the way they are for many, many years, and I would not consider this an urgent matter.
All righty. Because, you know, one stop sign in I think I only have maybe two, and one's down at the bottom of my street. That's never had a stop sign in the 30 years I've lived here, but I don't know if it needs one. But again, I appreciate it. So we're going to table this agenda item for right now. And then the city clerk, Lisa Tente, will send out this list to all the councilmen or council people, and then, you know, with the little cover sheet saying if they can all check on that and come back with any suggestions or recommendations, and if not, and then that means they're okay with these streets having stop signs put there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All righty. So the next item, and again, I apologize again, I can't see, but is the Chief Tente here?
He just showed up.
Logged in.
All righty. Hey, Chief, how you doing?
Great. I just got done with the police commission meeting. I know you had to leave early on that. There was some items we had to take care of. And I'm proud to announce that the Board of Police Commissioners has promoted Lieutenant Mike Bonds to Deputy Chief. The position is going to be left vacant come Friday by John Wallace, who served this department for over 38 years and did a phenomenal job. And I look forward to working with Mike as I have most of my career here. And Mike's got some big shoes, but I know he's capable of doing it. So I'm very pleased that that appointment was made tonight.
That's great news. Congratulations to Mike.
Absolutely.
So Lieutenant Mike Bonds has been appointed to Deputy Chief.
That's correct.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. Chief, I appreciate you being here, and we just got a new item, and you know, the crime gun violence. If you can just give us any updates or any information you want to us. I mean, I know I just sat in on the police commission meeting, so I've heard much of this, but if you can inform the rest of the council members and what's going on.
Absolutely. As you're aware, we made an arrest on the latest homicide. I hate to say that way, the latest homicide. It's unfortunate these things occur. There's still some leads that we're following up on to try to close the case. Again, essentially, our officers are preparing for prosecution. We work with the district attorney's office. And again, as I've said before, even publicly, we rely on the assistance of the state police, the sheriff. In this case, the town of Fishkill also assisted. Ulster County Sheriff, the District Attorney's Office. It really is a team approach. Anything like this happens in the city of Ulster County. So update on some of the other homicides are, as I mentioned during the commission meeting, we have never let up. Essentially we are down staffing levels in the detective division and in patrol from many years ago. It is a struggle sometimes to try to do what we're doing effectively, but our officers and our detectives, our dispatchers are working hard every day. When a case like this comes in, their attention is diverted for a short time until they're able to kind of, in this case, bring some finality to it, and then move back to their other open cases. And in addition to the shootings and to the homicides that we've had, unfortunately, in the city, the other component of that is we're still handling burglaries, we're still handling larceny cases. There's a tremendous amount of work in that detective division, and as I've addressed before, with that comes the excess work that the new systems of cellular telephones and smartphones and GPS and email all comes with it. I can't tell you how many thousands of pages on some of these search warrant returns have come back to us, and each page has to be reviewed. So tremendous amount of work. So on the patrol level response, I have been working closely with the command staff to come up with some plans. One of the latest ones, as the mayor announced yesterday, this Grocery for Guns program, we hope to have finalized on Friday. The basic premise is that we are going to trade grocery gift cards from Hannaford in Kingston for guns, working condition guns, pistols, rifles, assault rifles, all have value. And essentially what we're trying to do is get these guns off the street. I know there's been some discussion sometimes in groups and community forums, how good they're received, how well these programs actually work, and fully recognizing that in some cases, criminals that depend on those guns either for the use in the crime or protection in some cases that they feel they need, will not turn them in. But we're looking to make sure that guns that are not secured or found or left behind by someone who may have had it in possession has now passed away or moved on and is found by a family member when they're cleaning out the house, or someone who has one for protection that they no longer feel they need can call us and we can dispose of it properly. And I think it's important that even if we get only those guns, right, even if that's the focus of this program, which we hope it expands to others, that we recover a couple. They have been successful in the past. This is really not a traditional method on gun buybacks. In the past, they've used to set up a table and everyone would approach with a bag or something and say, here's the gun I want to get rid of, and we would exchange either a gift card or cash for it, and they would walk away. And that in and of itself has raised some issues. We have had some uncertainty when people approach us and pull this gun out of a bag, and in some cases it's loaded, in some cases it's non-functional, but we really can't tell at first blush. So the premise now is to make it, unlike before where it was at the convenience of the government, or in this case the police department, we're making it to the convenience of the individual. So if someone calls us up, they can either contact my phone directly, or I put my number out there, my office number, or they can, if they're concerned about anonymity, reach out for the tip line, the 331-4499 number, leave a message. We can call them back. It's a no ask question policy. We're just there to hand out the value of the card based upon the firearm that's being turned in, and that's it. We walk away from it. At that point, we'll process it for destruction and follow through. So I think it is a good step. It's one of the steps we're going to be taking. I am looking to put out some additional function within the staffing, within the limitations of staffing that we have. I did meet with the command staff today. I think we're just ironing out some other options. Admittedly, the blue-gray program, the law enforcement initiative that we had, met with some community resistance, right? Within the council itself, it was brought to my attention that there was some issues with that, and understanding that the bigger picture at the end of the day, even if the program was a real success, we're still left with some of the harm that's left by continual traffic stops and whatnot. So our take on this time is going to be somewhat different. We really do want, and I'm trying to teach myself and staff to use the word engagement more than enforcement. I think an engagement effort speaks volumes because it doesn't talk about just an enforcement effort. We're not talking about ticketing or stops or engagement. What does that mean? It means different things to different officers. I'd like to believe that every officer, once they receive their training and essentially knows their job after they've been off of FDO or field training, can police the city. And in some cases, a friendly wave or pulling over to the curb and rolling the window down and saying, "Hey, I saw you went through that. Let's not do that again." In some cases, a warning's effective. Some cases, a ticket has to be issued, and sometimes an arrest has to be made. But the officers do have that discretion, and I think they should use that to their advantage, knowing that at the top of that, at the foremost forefront of what they should be thinking is, how do I engage the community at this moment with this interaction to create and foster positive growth? And I think that has to be kept in mind, because we all recognize that there is an inherent distrust for police. We've been trying to work on that. This particular homicide, there has been an increase in the number of individuals that were openly willing to share information with us. You always come across one or two that don't want to talk to the cops. We understand that. But overall, the investigators, the detectives, they were well received. People have come to the realization this can't continue. We can't have this violence. I know we've had a number of meetings on it, and like I said, at this point internally, we're looking at different options that exist. Maybe coming back to the council with some of those options, because some of them may require additional funding, and we'll have to talk about that when it comes by.
Any
Tony,
questions? Anything? Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle has a question. Is it okay for her to go ahead?
Yes. Rennie, you take care. Again, I can't get in, so you see the hand, so I apologize again.
All right, Michelle Hirsch.
So I have thank you, Rennie and Chairman Davis. Thank you, Chief, for being here tonight. This is really a hard time in our community, and we spoke at length last week, and I just want to first, I have a couple of things to say and to ask, but the first thing is I want to speak about the incident with the group of young people, last week. That incident actually occurred in my ward, 2 blocks from my house. And some of the response ended up being literally across the street from my house. I would like to actually commend the officers that were present on the scene. There was young people involved, and they were treated with a lot of dignity and respect and compassion at the scene. I sent in some information to you and the mayor from the associate director of the group Violence Intervention for the National Network for Safe Communities at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. I believe that, you know them, right? You're having a relationship.
I do. I've actually worked very closely with David Kennedy and the National Network. We have that same program, as you mentioned, was IPVI, Intimate Partner Violence, and we were the first in the state to initiate that. So GVI is an extension. Newburgh's been doing that for quite some time and had success. That is also one of the options that we're looking at as well. I think GVI does have some merit. It requires some staffing changes internally. There are funds available for it, as you pointed out, so we're going to be looking at that as another option. But I am fully aware of the GVI option as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good something really worthwhile looking into, because it helps foster the relationship, and I think we have a damaged relationship between our law enforcement and our community, and I think that we need to bring in some outside help and some outside strategies that are evidence-based. And like you said, we had this response from the Blue and Gray last summer. We got drugs and guns off the streets, but the violence continued once it stopped. And so I don't think that, one answer is the only answer. I also want to say that, at the press conference yesterday, the Lights On initiative is also a good start. And I think that I know this doesn't correlate, isn't directly responsible, isn't your responsibility, because you're here to police. But I think that the community, the city needs a much stronger relationship and partnership with our school district. a board member from the school board, and I will be coming forward with a proposal for a children's cabinet, which is a partnership between the school district and the city. That one exists right now in the city in Poughkeepsie, and it looks at all of the availability of programs and services within the school district, the city, and the county level, and see where we have gaps. I want to point out something to all the members, of this committee and people in our community. This is graduation data from our school district from State Ed for the graduating cohort group the summer prior to the pandemic. And we have a problem in our city school district with dropout rates, and our overall dropout rate for students is 13%. But when we talk about male students, it goes up to 17%. When we talk about multiracial students, it's 14%. And the number for Black and African American students in our school district, the dropout rate is 16%. The Hispanic Latino dropout rate is 26%. The general ed students are 11%. Students with disabilities, 16%.
Michelle, you're frozen. Can you hear us? Michelle, are you there?
It seems like everybody's having computer problems today.
It sure does seem like it.
Yeah.
Well, till we get Michelle back, Chief, if I could, I'd just like for you to reemphasize what the gun buyback program is for, because I've seen some discussions going on, people saying that it's useless. How is this going to stop the crime in town? How's it going to stop, the gang activity? But that's not what it's for, right?
It really is just one facet of it, right? This is going to be a multifaceted approach when we start talking about reducing gun violence. The fact is that gun buybacks are successful. Guns are being turned into them. And I've talked to state officials, and we're looking to expand that to include other options as well. But, from the local level, here's an option where if someone does have a gun in a house, and I'll use an example from one of the ones that we did years and years ago. We had an elderly woman approach us. It was a small suitcase. She had a gun in there. It was a pistol. It was her husband's. He had passed away numerous years before. She didn't know what to do with it. At that point, she turned it in. She was able to get some money. That is one less pistol that, one, was not secured properly. She found it under her bed. And two, that is one, realistically, that's not going to be in the hands of someone who may have committed a burglary and now is in possession of that gun and now becomes an illegal gun by all purposes. So I think the struggle is to try to get people to understand that, one, we're not asking questions. If you find it, you want to turn it in, we'll give you money, groceries for, essentially a gift card from Hannaford. And I think that's a good program to start with. As people mentioned before, and I'm aware that some people are critical of it, saying that's not going to work. Well, there's other components, right? There's investigative components. There's engagement components. You have, as Alderman Hirsch was talking about, from the young age, we try to roll kids and, young adults into better behavioral choices when they get there, right? So I think that's a component. The latest homicide was involving two 40-year-old males, essentially. So, that's not going to change, but the access to the weapons maybe helps a little bit, maybe providing different services, right? And then we had a Radio Kingston community group meeting yesterday, and some of the discussion that took place is, what can the cops do and what can government do, right? Because in some places, it's not just, it was pointed out yesterday, it's not just drugs or gangs that cause the violence. What's the underlying causes? Why do people turn to drugs? So I think those things have to be explored. We're just not, the police officer's not the mechanism to do that. People are calling us because they have no other option. But as Alderman Hirsch, in our conversation, we talked about the possibility of additional programs out there that may address mental health issues, right? So that may be another option. We don't currently have them or have them available all the time in limited application, but certainly we have to explore that as well. A hard approach to stopping everybody on the street is not received well by the community that is most affected by it. We have to keep that in mind. And then, like I mentioned before, it's an engagement. Our officers are out there every day struggling to do the right thing with the community in mind. It's a struggle. It is. Sometimes that people don't understand the legal limitations, why that person wasn't arrested after they did what they did. Some people don't understand why they're getting arrested. I didn't know that was against the law. I didn't know that I couldn't do that. So we struggle on both sides of that as law enforcement. And from our agency, internally, just our agency, I can speak for, we've done everything that we've asked. You've seen the re-envisioning task force report. I mean, we're ahead of the curve on so many different aspects of this. Even when you start comparing them with different agencies around us, you say, wow, we're doing all right. We're ahead, And so I think at this point, it really turns to an engagement component. That gun buyback that was set, we may decide in the future to do a table and set it up so that people can approach us. But one less rifle, one less handgun, one less replica out there that could be pointed as a police officer that could essentially put everybody's life in harm's way at that moment, right? A child, again, let's talk about that, comes across a replica in someone's home and takes it. And now they point it in a darkened condition at an officer or at someone else, and we get the call, person with a gun running down the street. Tragic, right? It could be tragedy just waiting. So ideally what we're trying to do is get that stuff get it destroyed, get it collected, get it destroyed, and then hopefully make as much of a change in safety for the community as we possibly can. It's a struggle. I won't lie to you. There's a lot of challenges ahead of us, and nothing that we can't. There's been a lot of community dialogue. I do understand that some people want the cops and some people don't want us as much, right? So we got to balance that out. And in certain communities where the police enforcement happens more often, when the calls for service are greater, and the opportunity for that positive engagement is also greater. And I think that as long as officers can embrace that as another opportunity, we can move forward. I think that's important.
Great, thank you for that. Michelle, did you had more to say, because it seemed like you got cut off in the middle of what you were talking about?
Yeah, I just thank you, Rennie. So I don't know what happened on my computer. Yeah, so it just backing up to even what I'm hearing Chief Tinney say, that we have a lot of issues and we've got to discover the root causes. And we had the increased police presence last summer, but at the same time, we're still having shootings going on while the presence was still out there. So I think we need to really bring in some outside people to help us at this point. And I hope that the program that I was speaking about earlier, can help.
All right, great, thank you. Rita Worthington?
I was trying to, okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Everybody's having problems. Thank you. Rita Worthington here. So Chief Tinty, I think that you're on point with the community engagement. I think that that's going to go a long way. So thank you for that. I do see, that KPD is really working hard to improve the relations between community and law enforcement. And I know it's a lot, and I know that it's hard work, and I know that you get the brunt of a lot of the dissatisfaction that's going on. So I do appreciate you sticking around and still pushing forward. I really do. One question that I did have, though, is how are your officers responding to this new initiative with regard to more of a community engagement rather than a typical traffic stop or an arrest being made? Are they responding to that, positively? Or
So-
are you getting some pushback on that?
So we're rolling it out. I'll put it that way, right? I just met with Lieutenant Tremper, Lieutenant Cruzier, and now Deputy Chief Mike Bonds today to talk about different options that exist and how we can do that. The first step was to meet with the patrol supervisors. I have 9 patrol sergeants and 1 patrol lieutenant. Lieutenant Tremper oversees them. We met with them as an individual group for 3 at a time to talk about an increase in the visibility component. And that component itself didn't say specifically engagement. That's not the word I used. I actually started thinking about it. That is the method of interaction, is that engagement. But after that meeting, as you're aware, that the city on our patrol map is essentially broken down into 4 areas. And I'll use it very broadly, but Uptown Kingston is zone 1, Midtown is broken up into 2 and 3, and downtown is essentially patrol zone 4. So when an officer comes in and is given his or her assignment for the day, the sergeant will say, all right, you're in zone 4 today. That's the responsibility for their shift. There are differences, obviously, when arrests are made or they have to come in for paperwork or accidents and stuff like that. But overall, that's responsibility. In the past, some of the challenges that we had is if 1 is handling a call, 2 would have to go essentially and cover 1. We're kind of redesigning that now so that 2 and 3 is essentially always staffed. For us, for me, the point of sale essentially is that 1, it is by evidence-based or data-based, one of the areas that in Kingston that we have to have a good response time. When incidents like what happened on Liberty Street occur, hopefully they won't again, the fact is that the response time is also a huge factor in solvability of a crime. If we're able to get there, witnesses are there, people on the street are there, we may actually see the suspect running from that scene. I think that's important. So we're trying to cut down the response time. The other component is that during this engagement, and again, it's not really what it's not the term I used last week when I met the supervisors. I think it's important that the visibility in and of itself will bring increased engagement. And I think, again, in the past, it has been an enforcement effort, right? To be honest with you, Alderman, you and I, we've talked about this at great length, right? We can talk about it here. We've laughed over some things and maybe not laughed at others, right? That's the truth. But we've always managed to at least come to the table together about it. And I think for us, it really is, the officers will have to recognize that this is part of the buy-in from their end and from the community's end. I will be encouraging the officers to step out of the cars more. We are starting that walking post program again. The weather's changed, right? There's no reason not to, but it'll be within their patrol zones. And on the other side of that, I will hopefully, and have the support of the council, have the community also recognize when they see an officer, maybe throw the wave. Doesn't have to be more than that, just the wave, right? That's the first step, the acknowledgement step. Hey, how you doing, right? And I think that's important as well. And it's got to work from both sides.
Absolutely.
The truth is there are some officers that are going to be somewhat apprehensive about it and say, I don't know, traditional police work is stop the car, write the ticket, right? See if there's anything going on in the car, that type of thing. We're beyond that at this point, because we are Kingston police serving Kingston residents, we have to keep that in mind that this is a community response. And I'd say community because we're rolling the cops into that term. That's what has to be, everyone has to agree that it's not uptown, downtown, midtown, not zone 2, not zone 4, not zone 1, not the police, not residents or business owners, the community of Kingston. And I think as long as we recognize that, and I'm not reinventing the wheel. If you look at President Obama's report way back when, after Ferguson, you look at what the term was that they used, and it's not a warrior mentality anymore. It's a guardian mentality.
Right.
So it's a part of the solution. And will there be officers that will initially wave? No. Maybe it's going to take one wave from a community member to get that officer to raise his or her hand.
Right.
I am very hopeful. I really am. I think that we're at a point now where, after seeing what happened after that tragedy on Liberty Street, that we are at a point where the community wants it, the cops want it, And as long as we want it together, we will be meeting in the middle. I absolutely believe that.
I think so too. I think that although, with all of the crime and violence that's been going on, it's actually put us in a spot where both sides have to now come to the table, meet, and try to work together. So if it's done nothing else, tragedy often brings people together, and this certainly has. So I think, I'm proud of you. Have you ever heard me say that, Chief?
You say it in different ways, but I've heard you say it. I've heard you say some other things.
So I appreciate the work. I appreciate the initiative, and I support you 100% with that.
And I think that goes a long way. For the Common Council, I really believe that we're at a point now, and listen, we're not without fault, both as police officers, as individuals before we became cops, and as individuals as cops. We carry a lot. We carry family problems, emotional issues. A lot of times we don't know what the officer is going through, like we don't know what the community member is going through, right? We recognize that there are a lot of things going around, but to have the support of the Common Council and say, listen, we recognize there's a tough job out there. We need to work together. You don't always have to say the cops did a great job, but to hear good job on that one on both sides will go a long way. It really, really will. And so thank you very much, Reed. I really appreciate that.
Chief, going on that issue of what officers carry, I understand from Lester Strong that they're going to be getting the Peaceful Guardians program up and running again. Do you know anything about that?
I haven't heard that yet. I know in communicating with Lester that was a well-received program in our department. I think it is unfortunate that as COVID came in, we were just starting to ramp up the second phase of Peaceful Guardian. And I think that really kind of set us back, as COVID did, right? Even before that, even without including the Peaceful Guardian, as an agency, we were trying to get community engagement back then. We were just starting to ramp up on the walking posts, and unfortunately, COVID, I really do believe, is one of the variables that has affected the increase in crime. And it's not just Kingston. People are critical of, is the chief doing the right thing? Is the mayor doing the right thing? Is the Common Council? Is the union? Is the officer? Or is the community? And there are so many different parts that come together, but COVID played a part of it, right? There's some changes in the laws that have made it a little bit more difficult for law enforcement to work. The discovery law, the changes in discovery and the requirements thereof have made it a challenge internally. There's agencies that have now dedicated one officer solely to deliver discovery material. Our clerk, Alyssa Rockefeller, does a fantastic job, but she's really doing the job of two people. And it's unfortunate. She does it, she carries it out, but keeping that 15-day window, making sure that the information that we have on any type of arrest or incident gets immediately turned over within that time frame to the district attorney's office, so they in turn can turn it over to the defense, I think is important. It doesn't always get recognized. When we're talking about a call that involves all six, let's say we use that number, 6 officers, their body cameras, their mobile dash cams from the cars, any recordings, the telephone calls, any paperwork they've submitted, there's a tremendous amount of data that has to be turned over in a very short time frame. And so I think we've met it. It's still a challenge. You will see that in my request in the 2022 budget. I will be requesting additional personnel because I will be defending each and every position. I mean that. I'm not asking for more than I can defend. But I think a lot of it is that the officers worked through COVID and they had their own issues with their family. I can tell you that a couple of officers had to go through it when their own family members had COVID, right? And they still came to work. They did what they had to do, met the standards for the quarantine. And so hopefully with the vaccinations coming up, hopefully with everything we know about it now, and that we're moving out of this and we can move forward again like we were in that direction. The Peaceful Guardian was certainly a positive component. It was well received. My understanding is that Lester Strong presented a report to me. Some of it was great, some of it was good, and some of it was somewhat negative, but it was honest, and I appreciate that as well. I think we can only grow if we know where we have some deficiencies. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, right? Even with yourselves, right? You're going to get criticism about the police. You're going to get kudos about the police, depending on what we do and how we do it and which officers handle it and the conditions and so on. But overall, I think we have moved in a positive direction. But the support for the cops, I think, is important. And within that, programs that support police, like Peaceful Guardian, is also important to tie in.
Thank you. I see that Patrick O'Reilly has arrived. Let the record show. Alderman O'Reilly, do you have any questions you want to ask the chief? Any comments? You're good? All right. Thank you, sir. Anybody else got comments, questions, anything for the chief? Michelle Hirsch?
Thank you, Rennie. Chief, this isn't real. It's a separate matter, but I have quite a few people asking me about the homeless encampment behind Hannaford's, and that this police were sent in to remove that, and that people's tents and things like that were destroyed by the police. And I just would like to know if this is, whether or not this is true, if this is a rumor, or if the police did have to go in and remove people, like what the reason for that.
So my understanding is that the request was made. Don't hold me to the actual agency. I got the request from DPW to assist them as well. But I believe that it had something to do with the floodgates down there, with the flood area, that furniture, the equipment, whatever was down there had to be removed, that it was in violation. So we went there. I sent Lieutenant Cliff Tremper. He ran into one individual that he actually got assistance for. And I think that, right, we talk about positive engagement. I think that's
right.
Right. We got somebody, it's not 30 years ago where the cop shows up and says, find a different place, get out of here, right? Cliff went so far as to reach out for me. I put him in touch with an organization that I feel is helpful, that can help that individual do what they have to do. And it turned out that Lieutenant Tremper actually knew the individual, had a great rapport with him, and that person's on the right path now. Hopefully they'll stay that way. So it did get cleaned up. It had to get cleaned up, not by the city's request. This came out from a different organization. I dare say it was either the Army Engineers or DEC or one of the organizations. I don't actually have that, but we were kept in the loop on it, and the police officer was sent there, Cliff Tremper was sent there just ahead of it, just to say, hey, listen, provide the services we can provide. So again, another opportunity where we're taking a different approach than we had many years ago, right? We're not just kicking people out. Honestly, that was the approach back then. We would show up and say, everybody find someplace to go, and that's unacceptable today. It doesn't, people got there, we have to help them get somewhere else. And I think that does fall within the guidelines of the police. And so my understanding is, talking to Cliff, and we followed up on it, that individual now has at least been offered the services he needs in order to get his life back on.
Okay, I thank you for the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. So anybody else? Any other questions or comments for the chief? Hearing none, seeing none, then Tony, are you still with us? I don't hear Tony. Does anybody else hear Tony?
I'm still here. You guys hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So again, Randy, I appreciate you taking over, and I don't know what's wrong with the computer. I'll have my people come in and take a look at it, but I do appreciate you taking over, and a lot of good questions, a lot of good thoughts and input here. So I appreciate that. I appreciate, the non-committee members coming and joining us today. And so, I want to thank the chief for taking the time out to address us.
Yes, I'll add my thanks as well. And then, Tony, do you want to ask for a motion to adjourn?
Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion.
By who? Motion by who? Oh, you?
I made the motion. Michelle seconded.
Okay.
Doug is seconding. I think we're all in favor.
All righty.
All right. Good luck, Tony. Thanks again, Chief.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Good night, all.
Good night. Good night.